Hi, my name is Paul. I'm a nurse, and I'm going to talk to you about heart blocks. Now, if you're going to be a cardiac nurse, if you're going to be a cardiologist, you're obviously going to need to know more than this. But for someone who's just starting out, hopefully this would be a good first lesson, a good primer, something to augment what you're learning in school, your textbooks, that kind of stuff. And I should say the key to heart blocks is don't make these more complicated than they need to be. It seems like we got a first degree, we got a Weinckebach, the Mobitzes, all these things, and it's hard to keep them straight. So hopefully I'll be able to tell you in a way that you can remember it. There you go. So here is the heart. I know it's a very crudely drawn heart. I am a nurse, I am not an artist. But let's just do a quick review about how the impulses in the heart are supposed to work. Alright, so start up here, actually let's get oriented first. Okay, we have the right atrium, right ventricle, we have the left atrium, left ventricle. Remember, it's the patient's left and right, not your right and left when you're looking at it. So, patient's left and right. So, it starts up here at the SA node. This is where the impulse is normally generated. You say, Paul, how do I remember that it's supposed to start at the SA node? SA node. Well, here's a little trick. I don't know if that shows up well, but it starts at the SA node. At least it's supposed to. That's how it normally goes. So it starts up here at the SA node, which is right here. Goes down to the AV node, and it goes down through the bundle, splits, goes up like this in the left and right bundles, goes up in the Purkinje fibers and does that. So SA node start, goes down to the AV node, to the bundle branches, and go back up. So that's the way it's supposed to work. And there are three main types of heart blocks. All right, we have first degree, we have second degree, and we have third degree, right? Think about it this way. The first degree, the impulse always goes through. The impulse always gets to the bottom where it needs to go. So I'm going to write a little always there on first degree. I'll make a line so we separate these. Second degree, it sometimes goes through. Here's my terrible handwriting, but it sometimes goes through. And why it gets a little bit complicated is because there's two types of second degree heart blocks. We'll talk about those. And third degree, the impulse never goes through. That's never. So, first degree, the impulse always goes all the way through the ventricles. Second degree, it sometimes does. And the third degree, it never does. Alright, through the magic of editing, I've just backed up because what I want to do is I want to show you what a normal EKG would look like, and that way we can compare it with these other ones. So this will be normal. So you have a P wave, QRS, T wave. P wave, QRS, T wave. Alright, P, QRS, T. That's a little bit wide, but pretend that one were more narrow. Like that. Okay. So that's normal. That's what we want. So first degree, let's go back here. Let's say you have a little bit of ischemia somewhere here, all right? It wants to go through, but let's say it's just got to take a little bit of a detour. Because maybe you have some tissue that isn't working like it's supposed to. A little dead tissue, a little ischemia. So the impulse is always going to get through, but it's going to take just a little bit longer than normal to get there. So here you have P wave, then the QRS, and the T wave. P wave, then the QRS, then the T wave. Alright? So look at this PR interval. Okay, that's normal. This one, a little bit longer. Okay? So it's going to get there. It's just got to go around a little bit. Right? Second degree, so you see here, there are two types of second degree. There's second degree type 1, second degree type 2. So here, again, the impulse sometimes gets all the way to the ventricles. Let's see how type 1 works. And I'm going to write type 1 up here. So this we call the longer drop. Longer drop 1. And here's what I mean. You have the P wave, QRS, T wave. And you have the P wave, then the QRS, and the T wave. P wave, and nothing. P wave, QRS, T wave. Might be a little bit difficult to see, but here's what we did. So you have the PR interval here. PR interval gets a little bit longer here, and then what's going on here? Here's the P wave, but there's no QRS. There should be a QRS here. So it gets longer, and then it drops. And there should be a QRS after that, but it's not. But there isn't one. So that's type 1. Type 2, is more inexplicable. Meaning, and here's what I mean by that. You'll have P, so far so good, QRS, T, P, QRS, T, and the PR intervals are fine, right? It's not longer drop like second degree type 1 is. It's a normal PR interval. It's a P, QRS, T, P, QRS, T, P, and then nothing. P, QRS, T. And so again, it's, where's the QRS here, right? The PR intervals are normal, like they would be up here, but it's just, what's going on with this? Why do we have a P wave that's not followed by a QRS? So that's second degree type 2. The impulse sometimes gets all the way through. And I think one of the reasons why this gets so confusing is there's multiple names for for second degree type 1 and type 2. And I think you can blame Mobitz and Weinckebach. So type 1 is also called Mobitz 1. And it's also called Weinckebach. I'm not even exactly sure how to spell it. Weinckebach. Okay, type 2 is also called Mobitz 2. Now, on any of my tests and when talking with anybody at the hospital, if you know second degree type 1, second degree type 2, that's good enough. But you might as well memorize second degree type 1 is also called Mobitz 1, is also called Weinckebach. Second degree type 2 is also called Mobitz 2. Type 3, the impulse never gets through. Right? This is also called complete heart block. And so let's just think about it for a second. Let's say there is, there's dead ischemic heart tissue right here. What would you expect to see if the SA node is sending out his signal, right? He's generating a signal constantly, the way he's supposed to, but the ventricles down here, they're not getting it, right? So the SA node's up here. It's like somebody sending a letter. He's sending it every day. He's sending it, and then the guy at the bottom is looking up. He's saying, "Hello, anything? Anybody?" So this is complete heart block. Again, what would you expect to see if this is just completely blocked? And here I'm going to cheat because I'm not an artist. I copied this out of a book. And I'm going to zoom in on it pretty close so you can see it even better. Okay, so again, this is third degree, also called complete heart block, meaning the impulse is generated up in the SA node, it's going down, it is never getting down to the ventricles where it's supposed to be. So at first you look at it and you say, well, I mean, might it be second degree type 1? All right, let's take a look at it. Here's a P wave, here's a QRS. All right, the QRS is a little bit wide. At least it looks wide to me. Here's, I don't know if that's a P wave or a T wave. This looks like a P wave. But see, just look at this. The P wave is right before the QRS. You think, well, the P wave is causing the QRS maybe. But it just looks odd. See, here's a P wave with nothing followed by it. Here's a QRS with nothing before it. And here's a little trick. All right, so take a piece of paper and write out where you see the P waves. And see if the P waves march out and if the QRSs march out. All right, so I think that's a P wave. I think that's a P wave. And what do you know? There's a P wave right there. There's a P wave right there. It looks like it starts up with the T wave and then it jumps up with another P wave. And here's one that's kind of buried there in the QRS complex. There's another one right there, and there's another one. So what's happening is, and you can kind of see here that the QRSs march out. You know, you got one right there, there, and there. So what's happening is, if you just looked at this, you would think, man, that P wave is right before the QRS. Well, that has to be causing it, right? But when you look at it in a whole, you realize that this is a complete heart block, right? Just think about that term. The impulse is completely blocked. The SA node and the ventricles, they're just not communicating at all. So the P wave, the SA node, he's sending out his signal. He doesn't know that it's being blocked. He's just sending it out, sending it out, sending it out like he's supposed to. The ventricles are sitting down there, and they're saying, they're looking up, and they're saying, hey guys, are you sending me anything? All right, I guess I'll go. And so he's going right there. So if you see a P before a QRS, it's just completely random right there. And that is complete heart block. So again, the impulse never gets from the SA node to the ventricles. One thing I wanted to say before I forget about it, second degree type 2, aka Mobitz 2, just to confuse us. I drew the QRS as narrow. The QRSs can be either wide or narrow in second degree type 2. Kind of depends on where the block is. I can just imagine someone out there saying, oh, you drew the QRS too narrow. Sometimes it can be wide, and that's true. So I wanted to mention it can be either one. Let's talk about a little advanced stuff. So what do we do about this? All right, so you can recognize it on the test, hopefully, or you know, even on your unit or wherever. What's the patient going to look like? What do you do with this? All right, so let's start with type 1. So remember, the impulse is always getting through. There's always a QRS for every P wave. This, you're probably not going to do anything about. If it's new, you're going to document it. You're going to try to figure out why it's new. Maybe is it a medication, maybe. But he's still going to be perfusing. This patient in first degree heart block is still going to be perfusing because the impulse is always getting through. All right. Second degree heart block, second degree type 1. You can see, so the impulse sometimes gets through. It actually most of the time gets through. This one, again, second degree type 1, you're probably not going to do that much about it. Obviously, if it's new, you're going to document it, you're going to try to investigate why is this a change. But this patient is still probably going to be perfusing just fine. A lot of times this is caused by medications. And so you look, are they on a new medication that they weren't on before? And so maybe they can be on a different medication. But regardless, you know, your patient's probably going to be looking pretty good with this. You might not even know, the patient might not even have any idea that they're in second degree type 1. Now here is where it gets a little bit, or gets a lot more exciting and more dangerous. And let's jump to third degree heart block here. We'll get back to second degree type 2. Again, complete heart block, the SA node and the ventricles, they're just not talking at all. This is essentially like an idioventricular rhythm, all right? In a typical idioventricular, the SA node just isn't firing at all, right? And so he's just not sending anything down, and the ventricles are sitting down there saying, hello, are you sending anything? All right, well, we'll pump. Now it's not a very efficient pump. It's, you know, and you're not getting the atrial kick, but it's kind of the body's last resort. So that's kind of the effect that it has. In a third degree, again, it's always blocked. So the SA node is still firing, but it's just not getting to the ventricle. So it essentially has the same effect. So this patient in third degree or complete heart block is going to be looking sick, right? They're not perfusing. They might have passed out. Very short of breath. This patient is not doing well at all. What do you do for this patient? Pacer pads, right? Stand up here and here, right? Pacer pads should be on your core cart. You want these on because this is bad news. You need to put pacer pads on. You need to externally pace this patient until maybe they can have an internal pacer, maybe a pacer defibrillator implanted. But this is very bad news, right? Let's jump back to second degree type 2, aka Mobitz 2. Why this is bad is because this can very quickly turn into third degree, right? So remember we said PQRS, all's well and good, and now here's a P with no QRS behind it, right? And so there's something going on with the heart. There's some ischemia where it's kind of, it's like it's closing the door in effect, right? So there's something that's just stopping the impulse from going through. And again, second degree type 2 can quickly go into third degree. So if you see a patient in second degree type 2, and especially if you're seeing more and more P waves, with just no QRS following them, if it's me, I'm putting the pacer pads on them, right? Because this patient can go into third degree pretty quickly. And that, like we said, is bad news. You don't want to be there. Alright, there is one last type of block that I think I should go over real quick. It's called a bundle branch block. BBB, bundle branch block. And so again, look here, so it comes down to the SA node, it starts in the SA node, goes down to the AV node, goes through the bundle, goes through the right bundle branch and left bundle branch. Well, let's say it's blocked right here, for instance. What's going to happen is the impulse is going to go down here. Maybe I'll use a different color. The impulse is going to go down here, it's going to go down here, it's going to get blocked right here, but it's still going to be able to go this way. So it's going to kind of come up here, but this still needs to be, the impulse still needs to get here eventually, so it kind of comes around here and it makes this long detour because it's blocked right here. And that's a bundle branch block. So what does that look like? You have the normal P, then you have a big wide QRS and a T. Normal P, big wide QRS, and a normal T. And this big wide QRS is because the impulse has to make this this detour all the way around here. Is this a big deal? Maybe. Again, if it's new, you got to document it. Why is this new? Is this some new ischemia? The patient, in all likelihood, is going to be looking fine, is going to be perfusing fine, just not working totally efficiently. So again, figure out why this is going on if you can. I think people can live long, healthy lives with a bundle branch block, but that's the bundle branch block. Again, a real quick recap, and if it sounds like I'm repeating myself, it's because I am, because that's how I learn. It's not because I think you're too dumb to get this, but that's how I learned, going over and over and over and beating it into my head. Heart blocks, first degree heart blocks. The impulse is always getting through. It's just taking a while to get there. So you got this longer PR interval, meaning it's taking longer to get there, but the impulse is always getting through. Second degree heart block type 1, aka Mobitz 1, aka Weinckebach, longer drop. PR interval gets longer, and then all of a sudden, inexplicably, there's just nothing. There's a P wave with no QRS after it. Longer drop, second degree type 1. Second degree type 2, also known as Mobitz 2, everything's going along fine, the P, QRS, all these intervals are fine, everything's looking good, and then you got a P with no QRS after it. So the impulse is sometimes getting through, but just inexplicably sometimes it's not. Third degree heart block, also known as complete heart block, the impulse is never getting through. And that's it. Again, along with bundle branch block. You got a YQRS. Again, my name is Paul. Hopefully that made a little bit of sense to you. Here's a shameless plug. I'm proud to be a nurse. I am. You need to wear a lot of hats to be a nurse. It's not like some people's idea of what nurses used to be with the white outfits and the hat. It's not like that. So I'm proud to be a nurse. Hopefully, if you are a nurse, if you know somebody who's a nurse, you're proud too. And I wanted to show that to my kids. So I wrote, "My Daddy the Nurse." While I was at it, I also wrote, "My Mommy the Nurse." Available on Amazon.com. Look them up, look up Amazon. You can just type in "My Mommy the Nurse," "My Daddy the Nurse." Makes a great gift. I think, again, I'm proud to be a nurse. And if you're a nurse, or if you're going to be a nurse, or if you know a nurse, you should be proud too. They should be proud too. That's it. My name is Paul. Have a great day.